Hi guys, what's up? I have an Italian friend of mine here in France. Her name is Chiara. Say hello, Chiara.
Hello.
Okay, that's enough. So one day she asked me, can you teach me how to make croissants? And I said yes right away. That was 2 years ago, but we actually never met to make croissants together. But finally we agreed, today is the day. So at least she will stop asking me about that every single day.
Liar!
Before starting, what are croissants? They are a type of pastry served mainly at breakfast time. And I would actually love to eat one tomorrow morning, but I'm sure somebody will make them disappear before the evening falls.
Why are you looking at me?
Croissants fall in the category of laminated yeast dough. This means two things. Number one, they contain yeast, so they need time to rest in order to rise and proof. Number two, they are laminated, which means that the dough needs to be folded multiple times like it happens for puff pastry. To make 15 to 20 croissants, we will need 250 grams of pastry flour, 250 grams of strong flour, 60 grams of sugar, 10 grams of whole milk powder, 2 teaspoons of salt, 100 grams of cold butter, 25 grams of fresh yeast, and 230 grams of cold water at around 16 degrees. Then we'll incorporate 250 grams of butter in the dough before folding. And finally, just 1 egg and 1 yolk for the egg wash. Now to start, we need to proceed like for puff pastry. We need to make the dough first. Place the yeast in the bowl of a mixer and add the flours on top. I used a mix of normal and strong flour. We need a strong flour to create many separate layers of dough and butter. Next, add the sugar on one side of the bowl, then the salt on the opposite side. The milk powder in the middle, and finally the butter. Pour the water and start mixing at low speed with the hook attachment. Stop mixing after around 6 minutes, when the dough sticks together and cleans the side of the bowl. Do not overknead, otherwise it will be hard to roll it out. So do not worry too much if the dough is not perfectly smooth now. Make a bowl with the dough, then cut across on its surface. After this, cover it and let it rise at room temperature for an hour. In the meantime, place the 250 grams of butter at the center of a large sheet of parchment paper. Fold one side of the paper over the butter and unleash your violence to smash it with a rolling pin. After a while, fold the other side of the paper so that you can easily obtain a nice and flat rectangle. Once the dough is risen, flour the work surface and flatten the dough in the shape of a rectangle. Start with your hands and finish with the rolling pin. It is very important to roll the dough always in one direction, in front of you. Do not roll it from left to right and try to maintain sharp edges. The dough should be as thick as the rectangle of butter. To check if the thickness is even, pass your hands underneath the dough. Then place the rectangle of butter on the bottom half or in the middle of the rolled out dough. The butter and the dough should also have a similar consistency. Fold the remaining parts of the dough over the butter. Press the edges with your fingers to make sure that the dough fully contains the butter. Now wrap the dough in plastic and refrigerate for at least 1 hour. After chilling, place the dough on a lightly floured work surface so that the joint between the two edges is perpendicular to you. Quickly roll out the dough vertically, only in one direction like before. If the dough is too cold, start pressing the rolling pin horizontally in different spots, including the top and the bottom edges. Once the dough has started to become longer vertically, finish rolling it out with wider movements, but always in the same direction, not sideways. Fold the top part down so that it reaches 1/4 of the length of the dough. Then fold the bottom part up to match the other edge you've just folded. Remember to brush off any excess flour, otherwise the dough will have gray stripes and will rise unevenly. Next, fold the bottom part up again so to have 4 layers of dough. Now you can wrap this in plastic and refrigerate for at least 1 hour. After that, turn the dough 90 degrees clockwise compared to how you folded it before, so that the edge is on your right. Roll the dough out again until it's 3 times longer, exactly like before. This time though, we'll only fold it in 3, not in 4. Wrap in plastic again and refrigerate for at least 1 hour before using. Once you're ready to make croissant, place the dough on the work surface with the edge on your right and roll it out again. But this time you can rotate the dough clockwise and keep rolling it out in the other direction. Repeat this until you obtain a 4 mm high rectangle, around 50 cm wide and 40 cm high. Mark the middle of the dough and cut the whole rectangle in 2 horizontally. Next, measure the base of croissant. The base must be around 10 to 12 centimeters. My dough cutter was just perfect for this task. Now, it's time to cut the triangles with a sharp knife, and possibly with one single movement, without dragging the blade, as this might destroy the layers of butter. To shape the croissant, take one triangle and stretch its tip to make it a bit taller. Perform a small cut in the middle of the base, and then move your hands towards the tip to roll completely a croissant. Both hands should move together and the external fingers should gently press on the sides so that the horns of the croissant are not too thick. Place all the croissants on a parchment-lined tray and then let them proof for roughly 1.5 hours at room temperature, or until they double in size. Once they are doubled in size, brush them with the egg wash, just not too much, and bake them at 210 degrees Celsius for around 12 to 15 minutes until they're golden brown and crispy. So that's how to make croissants. I hope you enjoyed the recipe as much as my friend Chiara, and if you did, don't forget to leave a comment in the space below and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys next time for another recipe. Bye!
Bye!